Hello, my name is Andrew Kopelman. Thanks for coming to this info session, to watching this video. The goal of this is really just to give you a sense, an overview of the University of Minnesota's PSEO program, Post-Secondary Enrollment Options Program, some of the basics and what you can expect in terms of the student life for our students, the classes you take, the admissions, timeline, the requirements, all that stuff. So the basics, what is PSEO? PSEO at its heart is what's called a dual enrollment program. This means that when you take classes through the U of M, you get credit in two spots. You get credit on the U of M transcript, and you also get credit at your high school. It tends to transfer very efficiently also. So if you take a 4-credit class at the U of M, even if it's a 1-semester class, it will tend to fill an entire year of a high school requirement. So like a 4-credit English class at the U of M in fall semester will tend to fill a one full year of high school English 11 or English 12. Now, tuition is fully covered and required books are fully covered. So all required course materials are fully covered by the PSEO program as well as tuition. What's not covered will be things like student services fees, access to the rec center at the U of M won't be covered. Transportation, in some cases for families below the federal poverty line, will be able to talk to the high school about getting transportation reimbursement, mileage reimbursement, but other than that, it would not be covered. And for eligibility, this PSEO program at the U of M is open to students who are going to be juniors or seniors during the semester of enrollment. So starting for next fall semester. There are some programs out there that you might hear from that are open to students taking classes as sophomores, but the U of M is not. Now, when you take classes here, you can choose to take classes full-time or part-time, and you don't have to decide at the time of admissions when you apply which of those you're going to be. You can just register and then decide whether you'll go full-time or part-time after you've been admitted. Part-time means that you take usually 1 or 2 classes at the university and the rest of the classes at your high school. Full-time, though, means that you're taking all or almost all your classes at the university. Sometimes you can take like a music or something small at high school, and then very little at high school. So a full-time schedule, usually if you're a junior or if you haven't had a lot of experience with college coursework before, you usually start with about 3 main academic classes, about 12 or 13 credits. And then again, nothing at your high school or very little at your high school. Also an option open to you is you can split time between PSEO at the University of Minnesota and another PSEO program. So you can be full-time PSEO, but let's say part-time at the University of Minnesota and part-time at Century College. Now, most of the classes open to you are going to be 1,000 level classes and 2,000 level classes. Those are basically the courses that are geared towards freshmen at the University of Minnesota. Sometimes they'll have prerequisites that you'll have to meet. For instance, if you want to take Calculus 2, you'll have to complete Calculus 1 first. But for the most part, those 1,000 and 2,000 level courses will be open to you. Now that website you see there, the third bullet point, schedulebuilder.umn.edu, is the best place to see what classes are actually offered at the university and when they're offered. The fall schedule will probably not be up as I speak, which is in December of 2020. But usually the semester, at some point in the spring semester, the following semester's schedule will be available on that site for you to look at. Now, placement is another thing where the process will vary from the University of Minnesota versus other schools in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota. A lot of schools will require you to take placement testing as part of the admissions process. You might hear about something called the AccuPlacer. For the University of Minnesota, all the placement testing happens after you've been admitted. So you won't have to worry about placement testing just yet. You'll be able to take placement testing if it's needed after admission in some cases for math, for chemistry, for certain languages. And even then, if you've taken AP courses, in some cases, we may be able to honor scores that you earn there instead of placement. And so the biggest question then is, how do you pick your classes? I mean, the university has hundreds, probably thousands of classes available. And so how do you pick? First thing to know is you'll have help. You'll have an advisor assigned to help you, and we'll help you pick based on what your goals are. So if you tell us that you just want to knock out a couple of courses that are for high school requirements, a history, an English, a science, we can help you with that. If you want to start taking care of general college requirements, since this will start your undergraduate transcript, we can help you with that too. And for those of you who, let's say you really have a good sense of what you want to do after high school, let's say you want to major in political science and go on to medical school, we can help you with that. We can find out what classes are, help guide you in terms of what classes are needed for those programs and help you kill two birds with one stone. Now, PSEO is going to be a lot different than you might be used to in high school. There's a lot to adapt to. And so the question you want to ask yourself today and in the months to come is this program right for me? Is it going to be a good fit? So we'll talk about some of the differences between here and high school. In PSEO, there's a new class style to adapt to. A lot of the time, the classes are split up into multiple sections. So you might have, say, an English class with a lecture section where you're just kind of taking notes and listening, and then a discussion section that meets separately, a smaller section, maybe 25, 35 students instead of 100 students, where you are able to engage in conversation more. A lot of classes will be set up like that. Sciences might have a lecture section and then a lab session where you're working with a few students to put into practice what you learned in the lecture. There'll be a very large campus to get used to. A lot of the time students do get used to this pretty quickly, since you don't have to worry about the entirety of the campus. Usually you find the 3 or 4 places that you're going for your classes, and you find the route that works for you to get to them in the first couple of weeks. And the campus seems to shrink for students, but at the start it can be intimidating. You'll also have a lot more time weighted outside of class. It's not uncommon for PSEO students to have fewer hours in class in college than you would in high school. And the reason is that there's a lot more expected of you outside of class in terms of managing your time, in terms of doing recommended and optional work and studying and just making sure that you're accountable to yourself. And what this means also is that one of the crucial skills that you'll need as a PSEO student is the ability to ask for help. You'll get feedback less regularly in many of your classes than you would have in high school. Sometimes homework is optional or recommended, or there just for you to check in with how you're understanding the material. Sometimes even if it's required, you may not get a ton of feedback, and it'll be up to you to seek help if you're confused on the material. Self-advocacy is going to be huge in this, a huge skill for you to succeed in PSEO. There will be tons of resources for you to use that are free. There's going to be a writing center for you to review your essays at. There's going to be office hours that your instructors set up, tutoring rooms, free tutoring centers, from instructors and from peers who have succeeded in classes in the past, but none of that's going to be useful to you if you're not someone who actively seeks those resources out for yourself. And PSEO is not risk-free. It is tougher to get top grades in these classes. Sometimes you'll be competing with students who are full college students in cases where they might curve the classes. There are going to be cases where just instructors will have overall higher expectations of you. And it'll be, because you'll be getting less feedback, problems can sneak up on you. Sometimes students will think they're doing fine in the class and not really be paying super close attention. And then all of a sudden they get their first exam grade back a month into the class and find out, oh my God, I'm getting a C. So the onus will be much more on you to stay up on the class quickly and throughout. And the grades that you earned will follow you. A lot of the time, this is a positive. The grades that you earned may end up boosting your record as you apply towards colleges and towards graduate schools, and you're showing that you've succeeded in tough classes at the university. But the downside is that if things do not go well, then those grades can be a bit of a weight. If you get a a D in your first chemistry class or a C in your first chemistry class, and you want to apply towards, a science graduate program down the line in, 5 or 6 years after college, like this grade is part of that transcript you're going to be sending in. Now, a little bit about our application and what you can expect. The application is live on our website as of February 1st. The postmark deadline, where everything has to be at least in the mail, is May 15th. You'll find out if you're admitted by June 26th. And then there will be an orientation and registration in late July or early August, where you'll have to attend a half-day orientation session. I know during the, as I speak this, is during the COVID pandemic at the, what is, knock on wood, the tail end of it, we'll see. And as of now, the orientation is set to be a virtual orientation. The basics of what to expect. On our website on February 1st, you'll find details and detailed instructions on each section of the application. So I'll only be covering the basics here. Late applications are very rarely admitted. If you are considering coming to the program, I strongly recommend submitting your application as soon as possible. It's not a rolling application. So an application that's received complete on February 15th will have the same chance of getting in as someone who completes their application and sends it in on the last day of the deadline. But if you submit it at the last minute, you'll have a higher chance of something going wrong, of something missing, of missing signatures, of missing forms. And if something's missing and it's earlier in the process, we can let you know and you can correct it. You'll have time. If something's missing at the very end, it may be too late at that point for it to be considered on time. The application is also competitive. We have 1,200 applications on average for around 600 seats. The numbers can vary a bit. And so we're looking for the strongest 600 applications or 600 or so applications in that group, however many we get each year. So the basics of the materials themselves. First is an online application form that kicks everything off. This is something you can fill out just on our website as of February 1st that gets you going in our system. The second is you'll need a PSEO notice of student registration, which is a 3-part form. You'll fill it out the top section. If you are under 18, you'll need a parent or guardian to sign off on that. You'll have your high school counselor fill out the second section, and you'll leave the rest blank, and we'll fill out the third section. We'll also need a high school transcript. Now, this does not have to be official. So it can be an unofficial printout. It can be something your high school gives you. Either way is fine. And if you've taken prior PSEO courses, we'll need the transcript for that too. Again, that doesn't have to be official, but if you took, let's say, courses at Century last year or Normandale last year, you'll need to send us your transcript showing either the courses in, whatever you have at the moment, courses in progress, grades in progress, as well as any grades you've earned in prior semesters. Now, if you've taken a standardized test score like the SAT, Plan, Pre-ACT, something like that, you can submit one of those, and if you did very well in it, you can feel free to submit it, and if it may help. If you didn't do that well, feel free to not submit it. Like, you don't have to. Very few, not many students do submit these standardized test scores, and you won't be penalized for not submitting this. If you are a homeschool student, though, you will need to submit a standardized test score and see our website for a list of which standardized tests we accept. Now, the balance sheet is something that you can't submit that we strongly recommend you do. This will show what the remaining graduation requirements are after you after you finish your current semester of high school. And this will just help. It won't play a role in your admissions decision, but it will help if you're admitted for your advisor at the University of Minnesota to guide you. Because we'll be able to look at this and say, well, these are the courses we recommend based on your graduation requirements. And so it'll only help. And the additional statement is totally optional again. What this is if you want to explain anything on your application further, you can just submit a statement describing that. For instance, if you want to describe why you had a dip in a particular semester, why your grades were low, or extenuating circumstances around your health. Like, you feel free to give us any information that'll help us better read your academic materials, the transcript and your test scores and everything else. We don't have a lot of information in this application process. We're not looking at your extracurriculars or sports or leadership experiences, which will play a role in the undergraduate experience, in the undergraduate application process. But because we're not looking at that and we have so little information, the more you can tell us, the more context you provide, the better. So some of our criteria. There's a minimum GPA required of 3.6, an unweighted GPA of 3.6. Now, only even though that's a minimum, most students, about 85% of our admits in the past years, have had a 3.85 or above. But it is still possible to apply with a 3.6, at least unweighted. Below that, it is not possible. We'll be looking at that GPA. We'll also be looking at the rigor of your coursework. So if you've taken prior PSEO coursework, if you've taken AP coursework, honors coursework, we basically want to see, how have you been doing in your classes, and have you been taking the most challenging load that your high school offers to you? And we do take into account that not every high school offers the same load. Some high schools have tons of APs, some high schools have no APs. And we do take that into account. And we also will take into account if you submit standardized test scores or an additional statement, but those will be just secondary factors. And that's really it. For further information, feel free to contact us by phone. Email is often the best way to get in touch with us. And I strongly recommend checking out z.umn.edu/PSEO apply. That is the best place to find all the details on each part of this application you heard about, each part, the courses available to you. This is going to be kind of the best go-to one-stop shop for all things about applying to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities PSEO program. So thank you for attending, and thank you for watching, and we'll be around, we'll be in touch. Take care.